And the Karnataka High Court is all set to declare its verdict today on the hijab ban issue, which will set off a huge controversy in the state earlier this year. And the Karnataka government has also told the court that there is no restriction on wearing hijab in India except reasonable restrictions subject to institutional discipline. Now, ahead of the verdict, the state government has now banned large gatherings for a week in the state capital of Bengaluru. This is being done in order to really maintain public peace and order in the state. Meanwhile, Mangalore too has now banned large gatherings from today till 19th of March. Meanwhile, the Udupi district administration has also declared a holiday in schools and colleges today. We'll play out some reactions coming in.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, ये पहले किताब फिर हिजाब। हम भी मुस्लिम गर्ल्स हैं, हम भी नमाज 5 टाइम पढ़ते हैं, हम भी पढ़ते हैं। हिजाब ये सिर्फ कुछ नहीं है, ये सिर्फ कुछ लोग इस पे बैठ के एक मुद्दा बना रहे हैं, एक इशू बना रहे हैं। बाकी हिजाब का इतना बड़ा है नहीं, हिजाब पहनने के लिए कोई मना नहीं कर रहा है इनको। पहनो, हिजाब पहनना कोई गलत बात नहीं है। पहले किताब फिर हिजाब।
अभी देखो, श्रीनगर में एक इंसिडेंस हुआ, एक लड़की बुरके में थी, उसने हिजाब पहना था, प्रॉपर हिजाब में थी। उसने शादी के लिए एक बॉय को मना किया, प्रपोज किया, उसने मना किया और उसके ऊपर एसिड अटैक किया। तो ये ऐसा कैसे कह सकते हैं कि हिजाब पहने के हमारी लड़कियां सेफ रहेंगी?
इन माई ओपिनियन इट इज ऑलवेज पहले किताब फिर हिजाब, बिकॉज एवरीथिंग फर्स्ट इज आवर एजुकेशन राइट and wearing a hijab is a personal choice which no one can violate.
No one is forcing me to do this. This is my choice and this is my right and I want this my right.
हम हिजाब को नहीं छोड़ सकते, हिजाब हमारा दीन पर है और वी नीड हिजाब।
पहले से हम लोग वेयर कर रहे हैं, जब हमारा प्रॉब्लम आया तो तब उनको याद है कि दे कैन वेयर दैट शॉल, बिफोर दैट दे डिड नॉट हैव दैट।
ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ದರೆ ಒಪ್ಪಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನಾವು ಕದರಲ್ಲ.
Let me now go across to my colleague Shilpa, who's also closely tracking the development in the court today. And Shilpa, we have seen several districts surrounding Bengaluru, including Bengaluru, where now large gatherings have been banned. Schools and colleges have also been shut.
Well, that's right. In fact, ahead of the Karnataka High Court judgment in the hijab case, the district administration in several places, for example, Bengaluru, Dakshin Kannada and other places in Karnataka, they have, of course, imposed prohibitory orders. They will not be allowing any large-scale gatherings, especially protests. Because what we saw during the hearing, during the course of the hearing, was extremely deplorable. What played out in campuses across Karnataka. We saw students fighting amongst themselves, slogans being chanted inside campuses, girl students being heckled. So all of this, of course, played out during campuses, inside campuses during the course of the hearing. And we saw large-scale protests taking place, against this entire controversy by Muslim groups as well. So, in apprehension of some kind of law and order situation, the district administration in several places, they have now imposed, prohibitory orders which will not allow gatherings, large-scale gatherings. But apart from that, all eyes on the Karnataka High Court really, because today's judgment, of course, will have very far-reaching implications. The main bench, the full bench of the Karnataka High Court, of course, had heard this matter extensively for around 11 days. Arguments from all sides were placed before the court. We saw, massive discussions and arguments, of course, taking place inside the Karnataka High Court whenever this, matter was taken up. So we will, of course, today know what exactly the Karnataka government has decided as far as this issue is concerned. Because on one hand, the students, of course, say that they are being denied their basic right for education because the CDC, the college development committees, they are not allowing them to wear a hijab inside their classrooms. And though this started with just one college, it of course spread to other colleges in Karnataka. Several students were barred from entering their classrooms and taking examinations. All this, of course, was discussed extensively in the court, was argued extensively before the court. So the judgment of that, of course, is awaited. We are, of course, waiting to know the reactions also from both the sides and also the political parties in Karnataka.
In fact, continue to stay with us, Shilpa, and even as several attempts are being made to make sure that the situation remains calm and peaceful in the state, well, at the same time, the role of the radicals are also under the lens now. There was a plea that was filed in the court where the government had also, in a way, presented evidence as to how there is role of certain radical organizations like the PFI that will also be looked into now.
Well, that's right. In fact, the AG, of course, had mentioned about the role of Campus Front of India, which is a wing of the Popular Front of India, in instigating the students. In fact, the AG said that the students, the petitioners in this case, initially they had no problem coming to the campus without wearing a hijab, and it was only later that they were instigated by the Campus Front of India to wear hijab and create a controversy. And the AG has also submitted certain details, certain information about the Campus Front of India in a sealed cover to the Karnataka High Court, because the CJ, of course, asked about the activities of the Campus Front of India, and that is when the AG submitted a sealed cover to the court. So that angle, of course, is also being looked into. But what is most unfortunate is that, vested interest groups on both sides, they are, of course, creating a lot of issues. We saw how both these vested interest groups were instigating students, pitting students against each other, and that, of course, is what is more worrying and concerning. And the state government, of course, said that there are certain groups that are misleading the students. We are not against hijab. It is only a uniform that we are asking the students to follow, and it is not that the Karnataka government is against hijab, but the petitioners, and even when the arguments took place in court, what the counsel for the petitioners argued is that the GO, the government order itself, is illegal. It violates constitution. It violates the fundamental rights.
In fact, Shilpa, continue to be with us. We are also joined on this broadcast by our guest Rahul Ishwar this morning. Good morning, Rahul. The role of the radicals is still under the lens. Today is a big day as far as the court proceeding goes in the hijab controversy. It is also being alleged that the Popular Front of India and the allies are behind this agitation. Meanwhile, the state has submitted its sealed report. What can we expect today?
I mean, it's an open reality that many radical organizations, harshline organizations, were behind it. Even they themselves admitted it. To a question whether you are behind this, they openly said, we are not behind this, we are leading this. So is it not a reality? So can we ignore that? That's a different question. And please remember, this is not about wearing hijab at all. This is about individual rights versus institutional rights. Shouldn't an organization have a right? Shouldn't an institution have a right to decide on the dress code? And please remember, look at the example of the great Fatima Bibi, the first judge, female judge of the Indian Supreme Court, may it be Hindu, Christian or Muslim. She is a person who is a very pious Muslim lady, a very spiritual person, and she always used to wear the head covering whenever she used to go to personal functions. But whenever she was the judge, whenever she came to the court, she always used to have the court's dress code. So the core issue is not regarding religious right. The core issue is whether individual right in an institution or institutional right is bigger. And we all hope every institution has a right to decide on their dress code. And yes, like we all say, there should not be any intimidation. We hope our Muslim sisters are not hurt. That's all said and done. But having said that, the core question is individual rights versus institutional rights. And we all hope that institutions' right is bigger than the individual right. See, this is the core debate here.
Right.
And yeah.
Stay with us, Rahul. Let me also take a quick question with Majibur Rahman, who's an advocate joining us on this broadcast. And Majibur Rahman, this is an important day for the court as well as the state of Karnataka. There have been preparations made to keep the situation calm. But there are three essential questions that has clearly erupted this hijab row. Number one, is it essential part of Islam? Number two, the right to practice religion, which is bigger than uniform code. And number three, is wearing of a head cover progressive or aspirational?
First thing is, I will say, hijab is more than the religious practice. It's a culture, first thing. Second thing is, more than the religious practice, then it gives the protection to a woman. She feels safe, just like she feels safe in the clothes. And just like she feels in the dupatta. most of the women take. Why? We can raise a question over it too. Why? Because they feel protected. They want to wear their heads, their hairs. So first thing is, even in winters, most of the school girls and even boys cover their heads to protect themselves from the winter. And the second thing is, even today, we see in Maharashtra, very women from all the religions cover their head just to protect their hairs from the dust, which is in the environment of Maharashtra. So there are many aspects. If somebody wants to cover, to protect her hair, to feel comfortable, so we have no authority, no right to ask her go and be naked head. We cannot ask. So it should be a part of the uniform. That's it. Because it's not indecent. But even I will take one more minute. Even we see that in where the women wear the dignity, they cover their head, just like if somebody from the responsible position, like the Pratibha Patil, who was the president, whenever she comes to address the public, she covers her head. So why? Because she feels more dignified, and the institution is a dignified place. We cannot go naked head, just like we cannot go naked head in the mosque and in the mandir and in the gurudwara. So how we should give more respect to the educational institutions.
Right.
And first more thing, we should we call ourselves
in
a
fact,
feminine
stay
society.
with us, sir. But the role of the radicals here is also now under the lens of the hijab controversy. It is now being alleged, and Rahul Ishwar, if you can come in there, Popular Front of India and its allies are behind this agitation. Meanwhile, the states have submitted their sealed report, and in this particular petition, they have stated that the agitation is a handwork of radical organizations which can't create stir of this magnitude overnight. They also go on to state that it is obviously engineered their sinister design. Rahul Ishwar, meanwhile, the court has also ordered, stating that the government must put its input on these organizations as well.
And please remember, India is home to some of the great Muslim organizations. The organizations like Muslim League, to a great extent, the OIC Senior, who is very respected across the spectrum, or there are many other Muslim organizations who are very respected and accepted with all the difference of opinion. But we should remember there are Islamist extreme hardline organizations. For example, Popular Front was convicted. Many of the members of Popular Front were convicted in chopping off the hands of Professor Joseph in Kerala. And there has been many allegations against the organization. So please remember, this Islamist harshline organizations can have a very spiraling effect on the society. And mainstream Muslim organizations, they are different. So Islamist organizations, the government is not keeping a tab, we should take care. For example, from my home state, Kerala, nearly 100 people went to join ISIS, Syria. Kerala is the homeland of pluralism, communal harmony. Why should people from my state go to Syria or Afghanistan to join ISIS? These are the serious questions we should consider. And one submission to Mujib sir would be, Mujib sir is saying it is for decency, it is for dress code. So are you not conceding that it is not a religious compulsion? Mahatma Gandhi, when asked about Parda almost 70-75 years back, Mahatma Gandhi said, I would go so far as to say that the Parda should be of inside. This is one of the greatest secular icon, pluralist icon, Mahatma Gandhi talking. And he says, Holy Quran only advocates modesty. Quran-e-Sharif, if I quote Mahatma Gandhi's exact words, Holy Quran-e-Sharif is fully quoting modesty and no particular dress code is pointed out. So are we not creating a dress code that is not suited for us?
Mujibur Rahman, if you would like to come in on the radical aspect of the things, the court itself has now, in a way, ordered that the government has to look into it. The investigation is on, and the role of PFI and several such organizations is also at the forefront.
I will take Rahul that certainly scarf will not suit to him because it's meant for the girls. The girls feel comfortable in it. So let the girls decide what they want. They want to wear their modesty. Just even clothes give modesty to the woman. Even if you can say the scarf, a modest woman, you cannot imagine wearing a scarf. How? Tomorrow you will say we cannot see a girl unless she shows her legs, even in a skirt. Skirt is mandatory in the school. Yeah, you can. Only the modesty is in his skirt. No, even in one school, I see two dresses. One is skirt and shirt, and the second is salwar and kameez. Girl can pick anyone. In one school, I'm saying, not the different schools. So, because you are giving comfort to the women that what she wants to wear. Today in the feminine society, we claim, and here men are deciding that what women should wear in schools have not. This is a shameful for the India and the Indian society. You are just making mockery of the women and the modesty. You're just pulling her scarf is just like you are robbing her modesty.
But at the same time, Mujibur Rahman, the Karnataka government has told the court in clear words that there is no restriction on wearing a hijab in India, subject to institutional discipline that also needs to be followed. That's the point that everyone is making in this debate. For now, thanking both our guests for joining us this morning. We'll slip into a short break and we'll be back on the other side with more news and updates. Stay tuned.